I initially made this video so I could play it back in case I got into trouble. This project turned out to be pretty easy. There's a couple hiccups that you'll find along the way. I didn't see any videos that really described in detail some of the problems you run into. I thought I'd post this up to see if it could help anybody out. The process is really simple. This is a late 2011 MacBook Pro. A 2010 would be identical to a 2011. 2012 similar, I would think. So I'm popping out the battery here. There's one quick cable connection you just pop up. I'm popping out the RAM, the 2 banks of RAM, setting them off to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and narrate through this video and describe what you're seeing. As I was doing the video, I wasn't thinking about posting it up to YouTube. I was making it for myself. I was pretty much just talking to myself on occasion. This is the ribbons that are attached to the logic board, and they're coming from the optical drive and coming from the speaker right there, the one I just lifted up that's wobbling. There's 3 right along there. There's one right over there where the battery cable was, a little tiny one that pops off. Now I'm taking off the torque screws that hold down the logic board. They're all black. You see there's some silver looking screws in the middle of the logic board. Those don't come out. You're just going around the perimeter of the logic board and taking out the Torx screws. And it's very small Torx. I would recommend getting a few small magnetized Phillips screwdrivers and get a few different size Torx. It only takes one. You might be able to buy one and know what you're getting. In case you're not sure what size it is, I would just get a few. I'm pointing to a couple screws there on the far left. There's a more detailed little video section I'm including in this video that just describes all of the ribbons in detail, how they pop out, and what you can expect. I'm finishing up the Torx screws. I cut out the 5-10 minutes in between with me searching for them. There's probably about 8 to 10 on the logic board. Very simple. Okay, now I'm going back and I'm popping up the camera cable, the camera wire that's plugged into the logic board, and there's one other, the little speaker wire is attached right there too, right next to it. Again, there's a more detailed video selection in this video that I included, and you'll see it coming up. I'll warn you when it's coming up, and I simply make a video describing all of these little connectors in detail so you know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. There were 3 I did not see, and they finally pop up right about now or a little bit later. I mean, 20-30 seconds from now, they'll just pop out on their own. Again, there's a little section here that will go into detail about all of the ribbons, so you will have no surprises after watching this video. So there the 3 just popped out without me doing the disconnection. And watching this video, you'll know how to do the disconnection process on those as well. So now the logic board is going to come up most of the way. There's something hanging it up on the left front corner, and I'm going to keep talking. I'm talking to myself in the video there, so I remind myself certain things. But in the front left corner of the MacBook Pro, there's a little 1-inch wire, little black wire underneath this logic board, and you'll see in a minute that it's holding the logic board in place, and I'm having trouble figuring out what that is. It's the speaker wire that's basically just black glued into the top case of the computer. And so you want to grab the little black wire and just pop that out. And you don't want to pop it out from the logic board. You want to pop it out on the other end where it goes into the top case. Of course, the top case is on the bottom right now because I have the computer upside down. Again, there's going to be a little black wire underneath. I'm searching for it because at this point I'm unaware. I haven't seen this done before. and so I'm figuring it out as I go. I trust myself for these kinds of things. I work on cars a lot, and I'm pretty good with my hands, and I trust myself at this point to figure things out without breaking them. This was a little bit of a risk. I popped the wire up and out, and you'll see in a minute that it pops out. I'm trying to figure out what in the world is going on here. And you can't tell, looking at it, that it just pops. And it's just held down with a little bit of glue. That glue will still be tacky. It's like a caulk. And it's still going to be tacky when you pop it up. So, and the microphone comes out of a little hole that's bored, drilled into the top case. And so that's just going to, right here I'm taking off a little bracket. There's a little bracket along the front left of this corner. A couple long screws right there. Oh yes, another thing, you saw me when I took the logic board out. There, I had one single wire down underneath here, and that is the wire for the mic, and it's a black wire. It's a single black wire with a rubber end, and that rubber end is basically just glued to the top case from this underside. And so don't be afraid to take that black wire and just, once you get the logic board up and loose, it's going to be about, that wire is going to be about 1.5 inches, maybe a little less, about 1 inch long, and you want to grab it and pop it up, and that seats down into a little hole in the aluminum case, and you'll see it pops right back in there. It's really simple. So these are some things that I figured out as I went. These 3 ribbons weren't, I didn't see those at first. And this center one, the center wide ribbon right here, that's one little trick that you learn as you go. This will save you some hassles. You just want to pop that up right there. And then once you pop that up, that ribbon pops straight back. Okay, now back to the video here.
A little rubber grommet. Right,
I'm talking about the speaker, excuse me, the microphone little rubber grommet that's down into the top case. And I eventually figure that out. And that's the only part I had real concern. I wasn't sure how to get around that. And it turned out to be really simple. So that's just going to pop right out.
I guess antenna is what the guy was saying. I don't want to tighten it too hard.
There it comes. Okay.
So that just pushes back in that hole down there.
See, I'm telling myself, my future self, that pops down into a hole there. And again, I made this video just to cover my own butt. Now here I'm taking off the Phillips, little tiny Phillips screwdriver screws for the little bracket alongside the optical drive. There's just 2 there. There's one there in the front, and then there's one over by the speaker on the front side too that you'll see here in a minute. I explain this more in detail. I'll talk about it a little bit here. I'm using that little supplement bin on the far right side, and see I'm writing labels. I wrote about 4 or 5 labels and put the screws for the different parts in those bins, and it made it very simple. Putting this back together was really easy. It was really easy. Okay, so here I'm taking out another screw for the optical drive. And then that black strip along right there, that I'm taking off a couple screws for the speaker. That black strip there is the little speaker. And there's a couple little short screws right there. That speaker's in 2 pieces, and there's 2 little short screws right in the middle of that long strip, which is the speaker. Those 2 little short screws hold those 2 strips, those 2 halves together to make one long strip. So I'm making a note there in one of the bins that those are for the speakers. So that first part of the speaker comes out. Now it's going to be attached to some wires and those can stay attached. You just it'll take me a second here, and you just finally figure out you can just move the wire, the attached speaker, off to the side over there on top of the trackpad.
Okay.
That's my daughter talking to me, telling me that she's leaving.
Alright, bye.
Okay, so
Okay, it's a long screw. It goes right here. It goes right here.
yep, there's 2 long screws right there. And they're holding down 2 little
Okay,
connectors.
bye.
And one thing I'll probably talk about here to myself in the video, I'll explain here. Those 2 long screws are holding down 2 little
Another long screw.
2 little
Alongside the speaker.
connectors.
Right here.
And one is bronze colored and one is silver. And and it's really simple. They stay right where they're at. So when you put that speaker piece back, you'll know that the gold goes on the left, the silver goes on the right. So now here the optical drive is going to pop out. I might have one other screw here. See, I've got to move that black piece on the right corner out of the way. Here it comes.
It's all hung together by these wires.
There's one more screw there maybe underneath. Let's see here. Again, this is my first teardown, and it was really quite simple. I watched an hour-long one, and the guy was swearing the whole way through, and it was really distracting. And I basically watched it, and then I did it pretty much from my memory, and I just trusted myself to do it. And I think this video, with my narrative, it is probably going to be easier than most videos you're going to watch.
So right here, there's all this wire harness. There's two like wire. Looks like a ground little piece that goes over here.
So I'm explaining those 2 that I mentioned earlier.
Copper colored one that goes over here.
There goes the optical drive. I should mention real quick, this computer had water damage. The power button wasn't working. One of the keys wasn't working on the keyboard. Of course, to change the power button out, you have to change out the keyboard because the power button's attached to the keyboard. And so that's what I'm doing here. Apple rejected me because this computer had water damage. So I just decided to do it myself, and it worked great. So here's this bracket. This bracket is basically holding, it's just part of the structure, and it comes out with 2 screws, and you see the speaker dangling there right in the front on the right. And that's going to go with that bracket. And I'm just going to set that out of the way. It's going to stay attached because it's all attached by wires, of course. So you see here, I'm setting it all off to the side. It all goes real easy. It's easier than trying to take all that stuff apart. And it went back easier than it came apart. It really just it laid right back in. It was done in 1 minute. So now you see this, I regret, because I was just doing this for myself, I wasn't thinking about panning out and stuff and zooming in for an audience. But that, I stay zoomed in the rest of the time. But there's pieces, I did more video clips for a YouTube audience so you could see in better detail what's going on. Now you see this black covering, you can hear it coming up. It's held down, it's just a little bit sticky. The logic board has these little black torque screws. You want to get some a little variety of torque wrenches or screwdrivers, I guess you call them. And these are very small. And you notice that there's some silver looking screws in the middle. Those don't go anywhere. You don't touch those. It's just these black ones around the ring that you're going to get. And it's really simple. And the fan comes out. There's 3 different screws. 1, 2, 3, and they're 3 different sizes. It's really self-explanatory once you pop them out. You can see you have a couple Phillips heads here, and the rest are all Phillips. You just have the Torx screws on the motherboard. The rest is all Phillips. You have 2 long screws right here that come out in the corner, and then you have a couple long screws over here, and those come out. One thing I did that was really useful is, you probably saw in the video, I had one of those little supplement pill capsule boxes, and I made 4 labels in 4 of the bins. I labeled one logic board, and I labeled one speaker, I labeled one optical drive, and then I labeled one other, the bottom case, and I think that was it. I might have had one other for the power button. Now, when I pulled out these 2 long screws, I just set those here by the corner because I knew that they would go back right there. It's real self-explanatory. And the rest were just in those little bins, in separate bins. And that really, oh, and I had one for the fan, one bin for the fan. And watching this video and taking one of these apart, using my video, once you take it apart, you're going to know how to put it back together. Putting it back together was really easy. This is my first one, and I had a couple things to learn. The main thing that I learned was the ribbons and how those work, because sometimes you just don't know those things until you do them. And I didn't see any videos that really showed exactly how to pop these off. And I explained that pretty well. I think that'll save you some trouble. You have a couple long screws I mentioned over here, and so you can leave these over by, by this corner, and because they just go right back there. That's real simple. Okay, so back to what I was saying. This piece I'm pulling off here, it just comes straight up. It's stuck down with a little bit of tacky glue or whatever, and it remains tacky, so it goes right back together. You don't have to worry about buying glue. This is the backlight. This is what creates the light, the illumination on the keyboard. Now I was looking for some liquid damage here because my computer had it. Couldn't find anything here. What I did find is there were a few of the screws, and you'll probably see it in this video, a few of the screws on that you can see down there, the little tiny screws holding the keyboard onto the top case, they have a little bit of rust. So I took some alcohol and I cleaned all the rust off. I'm planning on taking the computer back. They rejected me the first time because of liquid damage. I'm cleaning all the liquid damage out. I'm going to take the computer back and see if I can get a new logic board, because it has a couple other little glitches. The camera doesn't work on the computer. So I'm going to have them put in a new screen or a new logic board. Besides that, the computer is 100% now. It had some pretty bad problems to start with, and so here now the keyboard is held together by tons of very tiny screws. You know those little tiny screws you took off of the bottom case to open up the computer? Well, there's the same size screw throughout this keyboard, and that's what holds the keyboard onto the top case. Probably 80 screws, so you can expect to take half hour on that. Some of them are kind of tight, and it's nice to have 2 or 3 different size little tiny Phillips screwdrivers, so you have a little variety of size. I found that helped me out. Sometimes the little tiny screwdriver was right, and sometimes a little bit of a bigger screwdriver where I could get a little more leverage to push down on it was the better size. And so you just go through here and you'd remove all those screws and just patiently go through and save them all. Now, one little trick I will tell you, I put all of the screws where the battery compartment is, right there on the computer. I wouldn't recommend that. When you take your computer down this far, you're going to want to get some air and blow your computer out. Of course, you've got 80 or 90 tiny screws there. It's not so easy. So I would recommend setting those screws that you're taking off right now from the keyboard, and set those off into their own tray compartment, and so your computer is free and you can blow that out without any problems. So here I'm speeding the video up, and so you don't have to watch me remove all those screws. Okay, so now those screws are all out, and that keyboard comes right up, and now it's attached on the right corner. Because I'm zoomed in a little tight here. Again, I wasn't thinking about making a YouTube video at this point, so you can't see it. But I do have another video segment in this video that will show in detail, and I'll describe in detail what I'm about to tell you right now. The keyboard, the silver keyboard, has the power button on the right corner that you can't see, and that power button is held down by two little screws, little Phillips screws, and so you can see them as you're looking down in there. And so right here, it took me a minute to figure it out, and that's what I'm seeing. And again, there's a little video segment coming up here in a couple minutes where I'll go into full detail about that, so you won't have any question after you see that little video segment. I'm holding my phone there with a flashlight so I can see down in there. Again, there's two screws, and that's all there is, and then that keyboard comes popping out. Again, there's a little video segment coming up here that will show you in full detail what I'm talking about. Here I'm using some air, cleaning things out a little bit. Good chance to get in there and clean your computer. I got a keyboard replacement off of eBay, and that's the new one right there. And I got it for 25, 30 bucks. You can get brand new OEM Apple keyboards for about 35, 40 bucks on eBay. I would go with a good reputable seller. You can get them in the United States too. You don't have to buy them from China and wait for 30 days for them to come. Sometimes it's faster. So here I'm going back in with the little tiny screws. It's nice if you have magnetized Phillips screwdrivers to hold those little tiny screws. And so I'm just lining up the first few screws. Speed it up here so you don't have to waste a bunch of time watching this. So again, just get comfortable and do your thing. And it's very simple. Putting the computer back together was really, really easy, especially when you have your own little video. This is the power button that's attached to the keyboard, and this power button, you can push it here and it clicks. So the Apple computer has a finished power button with a little picture on it, the power source on the top side of the case. That doesn't go anywhere. When you take out the keyboard, this is what you're going to see. And you see how this is shaped oval, and it has a little notch right, see if I can point right here. It has a little notch here, and it has a hole right here. So when that goes back in, it goes in like this, and you're going to see it doesn't readily just simply fit right back in. It has to go in. You have to angle the keyboard. I stopped filming all that and I cut all that out because it took me about 20 minutes to get it in. It's not hard to do, it's just you have to get it in at the right angle. There's two holes down here in the case where these two screws go, and it's easily identifiable. It's not tricky. The trick is this thing is so light and it's just a little bit tricky to get it. You want to go in at an angle sideways like this and then put it in place. I finally got fed up and I just kind of made it happen, and that's what you're going to find. And then you're going to screw these screws down, and that's your power button. Now, one thing you want to be aware of, when you take out the old keyboard and this old power button, there's going to be a little silver washer that's going to be sitting in between this power button and the bottom side of the computer power button. It's going to be just laying there, and you want to make sure that just lays back right in the center, and then the new power button will sit right on top of that. And so basically the The washer I'm talking about, it covers, or it basically fits around this center power button. That's one thing to watch out for. These 3 clips come straight up and off. Right here, this little silver one, that's the camera clip, and that pulls, the black wire pulls straight out. Just you pull it straight back. And this one right next to it with the red and the black wires, it comes and it just pries up, and it's really simple. There's also a ribbon here, there's a ribbon here, and there's one right here, and they pop up. This one pops up. This has a little black attachment, and you just pry that up and it'll pop right up, and then this black ribbon, this wide black ribbon, goes straight back toward the battery. The battery has a couple what Apple calls tri-lume screws. There's one here and there's one here. Mine's missing this one over here. It's shaped somewhat like a Phillips screw. There's a clip that comes out here for the battery, just pry straight up and off. There's a clip right here that pops straight up and off. This corner attachment has a silver ring around it, and you pry that, you just pop that silver ring up, and then you pull this straight back toward the corner of the laptop. Okay, so that's it. That's how you do it, and it really is simple. I can't stress that enough. It was really an easy job. And you keep this little video clip or this little YouTube video next to you while you're doing it. Keep it on your phone or something, and you can reference it. And there's enough detail here to get it done. The things that I maybe skip over are things that are very obvious. I made a point in this video to point out the things that you probably wouldn't expect or you wouldn't know until you yank something out. And so your bases should be covered. This will cover everything. Trying to think if there's anything I left out. I think that covers pretty much everything. It's really as simple as I just described. Good luck to you. I hope that works out for you.